Welcome to the Select Star Podcast, your resource for innovative technology, developer topics, and more. Here's your host, Margot McCabe from the HarperDB team.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Select Star Podcast, and thanks for tuning in. Today, we are speaking with Iris Classon. I'm not sure how to say your last name, but thank you so much, Iris, for joining us today.
Thank you. I usually say it's like class 1 without the E at the end, and it's also not class 1, but yeah.
That's helpful. That's good to know. And where are you calling in from today?
Sweden. Usually I say Gothenburg because people know where that is in Sweden, or at least some people know, but we bought a house outside of Gothenburg. It's like 40 minutes by car. Not in the middle of nowhere, but it's by the seaside. It's beautiful, but it's also very empty.
Oh, wow. That sounds beautiful. I've Sweden has been on my list. I've never visited and I really want to. So I've heard amazing things.
I love Sweden. I am, however, from Norway, and
Okay.
I always tell people you have to go to the mountains. You have to go hiking in Norway. It's a one of a kind experience. It's just gorgeous up there.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. We've got some mountains here. I'm in Colorado, so we do have some mountains nearby, but it's very different though. So I would love to see that. I would love, before we jump into some of our topics for today, just kind of a general overview on who you are and your background. I know you're a developer and a Microsoft MVP. Looks like you do some content creating. I think that I originally had found you because of Twitter, but would love just kind of background on who you are and your journey in tech.
Oh, where do I start?
Yeah.
Well, I've had quite the journey, and I think it's sort of how my name got thrown around a little bit, at least a couple of years ago. I'm actually a personal trainer and clinical dietitian.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. But see, working out and studying nutrition was way more fun than actually working with it. It's completely different. It's a bit unfortunate. Like when you go to university, you don't get to try things out. You just study for many years, and you usually have a little bit of debt at the end, even in Sweden. And then afterwards, you go like, oh, surprise! It's not at all what I thought it would be. So yeah, I just it didn't. How can I say? Like I have tremendous respect for healthcare workers, and I guess that was a problem for me. I found it really hard to just sort of give and give and give, and not bring work with me home. I worked with geriatric patients and end of life care, and also oncology. So pretty heavy stuff, and I could not turn it off. Like when I got home, like these people were with me always.
Yeah.
It was very draining, and also just it was more of a personal interest, nutrition. So I decided I wanted to try something new, and I had no idea what to do. For me, as a person with ADHD, everything is interesting. Like,
right.
You can tell me like desert in the sand. I don't know. I'd do anything just to give it a go. So my at the time boyfriend suggested like, well, you like problem solving and maybe you should look into programming. And I had no idea what it was. Like it was something nerdy, something with computers. But yeah, I was like, yeah, sure. I asked around asked my friends, and they're like, yeah, you're good with problem solving and you like math. You're not good at it, but you like it. So yeah, give it a go. And I did. So I didn't want to go back to university. I had enough. I had enough of just sitting there and learning, and I wanted to try more hands-on. So I did something that I believe it translates to English as vocational training, where you go to school, but like 2/3 or 1/3 of school is actually real life experience. So you will go to a company and basically just try to code. In the beginning, you try to code, and as time passes, you succeed a little bit more and a little bit more. And at the end of the education, you are a programmer, and probably a well-paid one as well. And that worked out great for me. I first week in school, I was really, really struggling, ready to quit. But my teacher convinced me to continue and give it a proper go. And I did. And by the second week, when I believe we did our first application, it was a simple, like hello world or something like that. And I think I wrote, enter your name and I will tell you your dream job. And obviously it was a static return. So everybody's dream job would be a programmer. So I entered my name and said, Iris Classon, you will be a great programmer. And I was like, oh, wow. And it just occurred to me like, wow, I can create things. I can create anything. Like, well, anything that a program can do, but that's a lot. That's a lot. And just, I guess the sense of power. Yeah. That's what grabbed me. And since then, I've never looked back. I absolutely love what I do. And I just, it's so much fun.
That's awesome.
That's how I ended up programming. It's a bit of a different journey, but I'm not the only one. There are another dietitian who turned programmer.
I think it's very common. A lot of people I talk to have what they would consider a non-traditional path into how they became a developer. So I don't think that there's any right or wrong way to begin or to first get into it. But I do think that obviously the fact that you're so passionate about it and are enjoying it so much is probably really helping with your success and your journey. Because some people get burnt out and want to switch and move around, but the fact that you're really loving it this much is probably why you're so good at it. So I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, like when I started learning programming, I was 27, and that's like dinosaur age. At least it was in my class. People are like, are you insane? Are you going to try to learn programming at 27? Like there are kids who are doing this now, they start like, I don't know, they give birth to kids and out comes the keyboard, the mechanical one with blue switches, the only ones that are good. So I felt really old. But now there are a lot of people who start even later. But for me, at least, I had this mindset that programmers, they were guys, super nerdy, like, the typical stereotypes are stuck in my head. Because that's how we've portrayed programmers for decades. Now this is changing, and it has been changing for at least a decade, and I'm loving it. But when I was getting started, it was a bit frustrating to feel old when 27 is nothing. I'm realizing it now, like that's nothing. You're just a baby. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so what did that lead to? Did you find sort of a specific area that you wanted to focus on, in front end or back end, or what has your journey been since that program completed?
I almost sold my soul and became a SharePoint developer. Sorry to all the SharePoint developers out there. But hey, at least you get filthy rich.
Yes.
I instead of doing that, which would have been a sane option, I chose all the wrong things. That's also how I became sort of a name in the community, because when I started learning programming, there's so much to learn. You don't know where to get started, and you get this like overwhelming feeling that you will never be good because there's so much to learn and there's new stuff all the time. So I decided on focusing on something small, and that was Windows Phone.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how many people listening be like, oh yeah, Windows Phone, I remember.
Yeah.
I love the square tiles. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
I went to a user meetup, and it just happened to be a Windows Phone meetup. And somebody helped me sort of set up my environment, and I made my first application, which of course was a fitness application to calculate your 1 rep max using an algorithm, and basically letting you to adjust your progressive overload by changing either the number of repetitions and sets or the weight. Which can be a little bit challenging when you're switching, because then you can't just like increment the weight, because if you do more repetitions, you have to lower your weight, but you still want to have a progressive increase every time you work out that specific muscle group. So I made that application, and sort of that just I wanted to learn more. And Windows Phone was a very small community, but it was a very tight community. Everybody knew everybody in the community. I mean, just 5 of us. No, I'm just kidding. We were more than 5 developers, but those of us like were into it. We were so passionate about it. Like, it was Windows Phone for life. Like, nearly had that lower back tattoo with the Nokia square tiles. I didn't, but nearly.
You were close.
Windows Phone. And then that got me into, it was called Metro Apps at the time. Microsoft is awesome at a lot of things, but naming things and being consistent in naming is not one of them.
That's true.
So Metro Apps turned into Windows Store apps, and then Universal Windows Platform applications.
Okay.
So I got into all of that. And when I did, like, the few companies who had these applications, they were struggling to find developers. So I was like, hello, here I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I started with.
Okay.
And funny enough, like, I went the full journey. I did always backend though. I've never been a front end type of person, always backend. And I ended up working for a company called Telerik. They're a very big, very well known component company. They make UI components for Windows Phone, for example, when it existed back in the days, but also Windows Forms and other platforms. So I worked for them, and then afterwards I ended up doing even web development, ASP.NET Core, and so on. And like, it's almost like I've done a full circle, because now I am back to mobile app development, still backend. Yeah, I'm working at Plaid, which is a smart lighting solution company. And we write our application with the Xamarin Forms, which means that we will have to rewrite everything to Maui before May next year.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Well, it sounds like it's a good thing that you started off with a little bit more of a niche or unique focus, because then, as you said, it's if you find the right opportunity, then it's much more needed, and less saturated, less competition. And
exactly.
And if you're interested in it and you love it, then you can find a way to make it successful. So I think that's really interesting. And yeah, the company you're at now, I was kind of looking at it. That's just something that we're seeing more and more of in like every single industry in every area, is how to turn anything into some sort of smart gadget or some sort of IoT or whatever it might be. So I think that's probably a good area to be in.
Yeah, I've worked here. I've played for 5 months, soon 6 months, and it's my dream job. I'm so excited. It's just one interesting aspect about Plaid is, so this is not a commercial. I don't see a lot of this. Everything is produced in Sweden, so like we make this little, I don't know what they're called in English, puckar. We call them in Swedish, like the stuff you install in the wall to control the lighting, where you have your switches. We have that, and we have like motion sensors. Now we even have lights, like smart lights. So you can install like 50 smart LED lights. But when you install them, you don't install them one by one. You install them as a group, and then you regroup them. Like, these two are on this schedule. These two are dimming to warm. These two are like bright white blue. Yeah, not RGB, but yeah.
That's cool.
Everything we produce is in the same building, and my team is like in the middle of the building. It's a very old building, and it takes me 10 minutes from outside the building to get to my desk, and I'm a fast walker. It's like,
oh my gosh,
really hard to find your way. Like, I had to record a video of me finding my way to my desk, because otherwise I would get lost, and they would find me a week later starving and really mad. I get mad when I'm angry. But as I walk into the building, like, I go through production, where we have the big 3D printers, the assembly lines, the designers, the firmware team, and just everything, like marketing, sales, everybody is in the same building. So I get to see the product like produced from start to finish. To I take it home with me, install it at home, and which my husband doesn't like, use it for testing when I develop. So our lights are constantly flickering as I'm turning things off and on. So it's just it's exhilarating to see something from just a drawing, from the people who are drawing it, being produced, using it yourself, and then creating the application that communicates with the various aspects of the product.
Right.
That is so cool, because otherwise, like, I've done so many intranets, so many websites, so many services and APIs, but this is the full circle.
Yeah. I mean,
so cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's such a rewarding process, I bet, to see the work that you're putting in and really be able to see tangible results and physically see what you're building. And the fact that it's all happening under one roof, I think, is becoming more and more rare these days, as you know, people outsource and send things off. And so that's probably so cool to just see every step of the process.
And being able to talk to the people who've done I've been trying to plan in to spend a day with the various teams. Like, I spent a day with the testing team so I can understand how they test, because we do a lot of testing. Since we're working with physical devices, we need to do a lot of testing. And I'm really looking forward to sit with the firmware team, because I've always wanted to learn that stuff, but I know I like what I'm doing now, so I'm not going to switch to firmware, but just I want to understand what they're doing and how it works, because we communicate with those parts a lot in our application. And it's so cool to be able to do that. Like, if I want to talk to somebody, I just walk down the stairs and I knock on their door, or on the landscape, but everybody is there. So it's easy to get a hold of people, and you get some face-to-face time, which is also very, very rare nowadays.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. Yeah, I live way more I'm working for, a database data management software company. It's all in the software world. So it sounds like it would be really interesting to be in a space where, like, you see that mix of the hardware, the physical, and the tech software coming together. That sounds really interesting. Yeah. My husband has a manufacturing facility. They make skis. And so they've actually been slowly, like very slowly, integrating different sort of like smart technologies and sensors and things. Definitely not as quickly as a lot of the big manufacturing type of facilities are, but it's so cool now, like what's available and what you can really do. And there, it's almost
I want to hear more about that. What type of sensors? I like to ski. Not down cross country. I'm like the boring skier. The one who's had an ACL replacement surgery.
Oh, wow.
So what kind of sensors, like, because there's got to be a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, I mean, there's, if you look at like smart manufacturing, there's so many different types of sensors that you can put in. For example, something that's measuring like the input and output and can give you smart recommendations for how to increase efficiency, or just like monitoring sensors, which is really important. Like, they constantly have machinery that's breaking down. So there's things that you can connect to an app that'll tell you if something's overheating, or if like it's getting close to needing mechanical service or something. So there's a lot of there's so many options. I think sometimes it almost seems like overwhelming because there's so much you can do. And so that's why they've been trying to do like a very slow integration, like much slower than probably a lot more innovative, newer type companies. But it's just cool to see, like, again, how that can come together with like the physical and how technology can just make things so much easier now.
Yeah, but you've got a good point there. Like, there's a lot of people talk about speed, that speed is important, but that usually affects quality. I think it's a really good bet to just pick a few things and just do them really well.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of companies try to do a lot at once, and then they get that Google graveyard, the graveyard where all the failed projects go.
I know.
Yeah, and that's really depressive for the people who spend time, creating those things. Like, looking at you, Windows Phone and Microsoft Band, I miss you, damn it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Microsoft Band. Yeah, see, I told you, like, I jumped on it. It's like I have a radar for stuff that's like, this is temporary. I'm going with it.
As you said, you've gone the full circle.
Yep.
So, just switching gears a little bit, one thing I'm really curious about is that you mentioned you wrote a comedic fiction about a software developer, which after talking to you for a little bit doesn't surprise me. I could tell, that you're funny and witty, and so that sounds really interesting. So I would love to hear more about that and sort of what that process was like of pulling together like your technical knowledge of being a developer, but with the creative side of writing, which is such a different skill set.
Yeah, well, I was working at the startup Construct, also working together with my first boyfriend, then ex-boyfriend, and I was like getting so annoyed like with the stuff he did. He was a product owner who wanted to be a programmer, and I was like, you can't code. So I would just like write down all the stupid stuff he did, and then I started writing down all the stupid stuff I did, because turns out I have a lot as well. And I just started writing down all the funny stories, because you end up in the most weird, absurd situations as a software developer. You'd never think it was such an interesting job, and just quirky personalities, like very charismatic people, weird people, fun people. And I started writing down all the stories and things that happen in the news, like the big GitLab incident where they unfortunately did a recursive delete on the wrong servers, which happened to be production. So I started writing down stories like that, which for me, it's easy from outside. I'm like, haha, that's funny. I don't have my repos there. We do now, though. And they handled it really, really well. So I wrote down all the stories, and then I was like thinking, oh, I got like a book worth enough to write a book. So I decided to start writing a book.
Cool.
And the idea of this software developer, a consultant, because that's sort of a painful job at times.
Yeah.
That tries to avoid customer support. The consultant, Leo, is being told that all developers have to help out with customer support, the dreaded customer contact support, which I probably just sort of, I'm just reflecting here, because that's me trying to avoid customer support.
Yeah.
But the architects don't have to. So, what if I become an architect? What can possibly go wrong? And turns out a lot can go wrong. And that's what the book is about. And the sequel is coming out in a couple of months, and then the third book later this year. And I guess it's official now. Like, I think it was this Monday, the Korean translation came out.
Oh, cool. That's so cool.
I don't know why, but I always end up in these like really weird situations. My husband tell me, only you end up meeting these weird people and weird situations. Somebody wrote to me, and I thought it was spam, but I usually reply to spam because I find it really fun to just see how they react. And they wanted they inquired about translation rights for Korean, and I was like, okay, like out of all the languages, like how do you even find me? So I started talking to this guy and contacted some authors who had published through the publishing company, and it turns out it was legit.
Oh,
which I only realized when they actually paid me. Like, woohoo, they're legit. I didn't know what I signed away. Maybe I signed away my kids. I have no idea. But I didn't get the money transfer, and it was not through Bitcoins. So it was legit. I spent the money on a narrator or a voice actor to make an audio version of the book. So like all the money I paid for the book, either I donated it to humanitarian organizations helping out in Ukraine, or I spent the money reinvesting it in books. And I might have bought some new dresses, but
I think you deserve that. That's fair. So what's the name of the series? Or
it's called The Unlikely Success of a Copy-Paste Developer.
Okay.
It's a mouthful. The sequel is called The Great Merge and the Copy-Paste Developer. I didn't think it was going to be a series, so I guess the series name is like Copy-Paste Developer. I have 2 other books coming out this year.
Cool.
Also comedic fiction, which is apparently the only thing I can write. See, I thought I was funny, but I wasn't sure. People tell me now that I can be funny at times. My family disagrees, in particular my children, but it's nice to know that I can make people laugh. or
That's
cry.
so funny. Yeah. I mean, it's a very unique skill set to be able to write. And I mean, writing a book is so different from writing an article or a white paper or something. Like you have to really find a way to have the reader engaged through a lot of writing. And I think it takes a very special skill set and dedication. So that's really cool. I just pulled this up and I'm definitely adding it to my reading list. And I see that there's an audiobook too, which I love for driving, for commuting. So yeah, that's just such a good idea and like a good way, because there is such a stigma around being a software developer and being in tech, of like the person behind the awkward person behind the computer that doesn't have any personality or anything. And I think that stigma is long gone now, but it's still sort of funny. Like there's funny memes about it. And so this is a good way to sort of showcase like the overlap of being able to laugh at yourself and have that humility and like find the funny in like the bad situations.
I think oddly enough, like the whole thing, like me writing down all the stories, it comes from I had to do a lot of like cognitive behavioral therapy for my ADHD. So you learn this like diary structure. What happened? So what was a triggering event? What happened? How did you feel? And you
Right.
sort of analyze it. It's really nice because when you've done it thousands of times, it just happens automatically. So basically I was just writing this stuff like triggering situation. I'm going to call him Tim. Tim was an idiot today. And I was like, okay, I probably need more detail. And I was like, he was an idiot because this happened. And I felt like I was enraged. And I started writing like that. And I always do it. I still do it to this day. It's a coping mechanism, and humor is definitely a great coping mechanism because laughing releases endorphins and oxytocin, like stuff that makes you feel good.
Right.
I think sort of rewriting annoying situations either in a comedic tone or just writing them as you feel them and then look back at them like 2 months later and just cringe and hopefully laugh. It's great, and it's helped me a lot to manage frustrating situations, because there are a lot of frustrating situations as a software developer. I mean, there are in all, like any job will have some frustrating situations. So I think it would be so fun if I could like read like a similar book about like different jobs, you know.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, clearly you've got a knack for it, so you might as well keep going. And that kind of brings me into something else I'm curious about is how do you balance, having two kids, the full-time job, writing a book, like probably I'm assuming that you still do a lot of fitness and whatever other hobbies you have. So do you have any sort of tips on how you do all that?
Well, I have been like to take all my advice with a pinch of salt, because I have been burned out once and had 2-3 bouts of depression. 2 of them related to pregnancy and birth, so we can scratch those, right?
Yeah.
Because that's done, and we're not having a third one. Snip, snip. So what was I saying? I always start off complaining, and then I come with some positive stuff.
That's fair.
I think they call it like a shit sandwich, like positive, negative, positive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But what has helped a lot is, I think in terms of like practical, is I stopped scrolling on my phone.
Okay.
Now everybody goes like, all right, okay, I can't do that. It is possible. So I replaced scrolling on my phone with writing and reading, which I still do on my phone. So I still get that screen time I crave.
Right.
I am producing things, and I read a lot, like a book a week or something. Audiobooks and commuting sure helps me get through books. But what we've done at home, so we split parenting and household tasks 50-50 at home. And my husband he works as a product owner.
Okay.
And will never work together. He works as a product owner, but his really big passion is music. So he's got a band in a studio, and he studied music production and so on. So he's passionate about that. He's currently now recording a new album. So what we do is we have one day a week each where we have no responsibility except for work.
Oh, cool.
So no cooking, no cleaning, not putting the kids to bed. Like, even if you're at home, you are a ghost, you're invincible.
Right.
And that is actually fantastic. And it's amazing how much you can do in so little time. In particularly, if you're a parent, you learn to be efficient. Give me 10 minutes and I'll clean the living room and I've done laundry. You know, you become really efficient because you don't have a lot of spare time. I think just being able to have that day, and it's always the same day. And now I stay at the office until late, and I write at the office because the kids are kind of loud, and my husband is at the studio when he has his day. And sometimes, if we can, we'll add another day a week, and this helps. It helps a lot. So booking things in, then you have to do it. You book it in. I book it in. It's a meeting in my calendar. A meeting with, well, just me, but I show up.
Yeah.
And we also push each other. So if I go like, oh, I don't feel like writing today, like, no, just go. It's the same thing as I do with the gym. I just have to go there. I just have to go through the doors. I just have to enter, and hey, I can just turn my heel and go back out, but I went to the gym.
Right.
Usually I stay behind and actually work out, but just showing up is half the job. So I think that's been what has been most helpful for us. But I don't have a lot of like dead time. Like when I was breastfeeding my kids in the middle of the night, I would be reading or writing, walking hours on end, trying to get my oldest to sleep, walking like with him in the stroller. I would write a book with voice to text. So finding good tools.
Oh, wow.
And it actually made me look forward to that 2-hour walk, which was the only way to get him to sleep. That's how I wrote that book.
That's so funny.
So like, what would I otherwise do? It's not like he wants to talk to me. Like, he's trying to fall asleep as well, and he finds my voice soothing. I've decided, I have not asked him, but I've just decided that my voice is soothing to him, so I can just keep blabbering into my phone and he appreciates it. But now that I think about it, maybe that's why it took 2 hours to get him to sleep. Maybe if I just shut up, he would fall asleep in 5 minutes.
You never know. It could be either.
No, I can't undo it now, right?
Yeah, that's so funny.
You live and learn.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, those are some really great tips though, like scheduling time and just making buckets, because a lot of people think they're so good at multitasking and they're not, and it's better to just allocate like 30 minutes towards one thing than 4 hours towards 4 things. And so I really like that idea of like having that balance with your family and scheduling out different time and having those expectations. 'Cause I mean, so many like married couples joke about how every single night they look at each other like, what do you want to do for dinner? Well, are you cooking? Are you cooking? And like, there's always just this question of what's happening. And it's kind of better to just set those expectations and like have the scheduled time and have it figured out. So
I'm really looking forward to that one day, that one morning when we wake up and we do not ask each other, how was your night? So we take, like, I take the oldest and he takes the youngest. They both still wake up during the night, but I'm really looking forward to not having those conversations, like planning dinner, like, oh, he doesn't eat that, no, he doesn't eat that, no, he doesn't eat that. We do a lot of planning. We have a financial meeting. You can tell he's a product owner because he likes booking meetings. Like, it's like meetings. He's like, oh, it's his love language, actually. If I want to fill up his love language, I'll just book a meeting. It's like, ding, ding.
That's perfect.
So we have a financial meeting every month. We make sure that we pay their bills, because I pay some, he pays some. It's just because some of the bills I can pay through my company, like internet and stuff like that. But we have like a joint economy.
Right.
So we have that, because then every month, and he'll ask me, oh, did you sort out this? And I ask him, did you sort out that? And then we've automated as much as possible in terms of paying bills. We have a robotic grass clipper. No, what is it called?
Oh, lawnmower?
Lawnmower. Robotic grass clipper. See,
I didn't know that there were I didn't know there were automatic ones. That's so cool. We need that.
That's what they're called in Swedish, gräsklippare. I do have an editor and a proofreader, so whatever I say, that's not how I write.
No worries.
Grass clipper is a great alternative to a lawnmower. It is.
It makes more sense.
This is a new thing. I'll add it to Urban Dictionary, and hey, here we go. We have a vacuum cleaner.
Yep.
But that's the sucker. No, just kidding. We have a robotic vacuum cleaner. It's on a schedule, and I take the kids to kindergarten. I start it, and when I get home, it's done. Then I mop the floors and just everything. Like the power of habits.
Yeah,
that's the only way you can get household work done. And while I'm saying this, like, I will not turn the camera because I shoved all the laundry, which is like a month worth of laundry, is shoved into a corner. I will not show you that. So, something's got to give. Our life is not perfect. Our fridge is empty, and the kids ate meatballs 3 days in a row. But we're happy. Mommy and Daddy is happy. Life
That's
is
all
good.
that matters. Yeah.
And we have a grass clipper.
You've got a good grass clipper, a good work-life balance. That's all that matters.
Yep.
Well, this has been so fun chatting. I know we're kind of coming up on time here, and I didn't even get around to half of my questions. So maybe we'll have to have a follow-up sometime, because this has been really interesting and fun chatting with you, Iris. Thank you so much for taking the time, because I know you're busy. I'll be sure to put in the show notes, if anyone's listening wants to connect on Twitter, and also the link to the book, which I am going to be listening to on Audible, and I'm excited. And I really appreciate connecting with you. It's always so fun to hear different people's stories. And, there's always, I think each person I talk to has like some takeaways that people listening will be like, I really needed to hear that today. So it's fun. I love doing these.
People like grass clipper. Yeah.
That's the takeaway.
That's the takeaway.
You never know.
Thanks for having me on. I love talking about myself. Because it's a topic I know really well.
Yeah. You don't need to study.
I'm an expert at myself.
It's true.
Joke aside, thank you. I always love talking about my passion for programming, because I hope it rubs off on other people.
Of course. Well, thank you so much, and looking forward to keeping in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Select Star, your resource for innovative technology and developer topics. You can find our episodes in all the usual places: Spotify, Apple, Google, RSS, and YouTube. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share. You can learn more about HarperDB at harperdb.io.